Beep, 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 beep. Hello. It's grey. It's miserable. It's overcast. All right. How are we? Buy me a coffee. If you want me a coffee, or give me a super thanks. Become warrior teacher. Blah, blah. The usual. Only a few days to go. I'm so excited. New peeps. New peeps. I'm always excited by that. Right. So, first off, it's great, isn't it? It's the play about the Mermaid's Trial. There is in the linkages, in the doobries for you today, a link to a podcast by the people that did the play. I can't wait to see it. I do hope it gets picked up internationally, because you'd have to see it to believe it. I mean, those of us that followed the Mermaid's play will know perfectly well how absolutely, completely and totally deranged it was, right? So what they've done is they've, sort of squeezed it down, so they've got all the good bits. Yep. They've got all the good bits. And because they've got all the good bits, you don't have to do the boring bits, which is what essentially, entertainment like theatre and film is. Life with the boring bits cut out. So, let's just hope it, goes on tour. We can all see it. I think a film. You never know, do you? You never know. You never know. Right, so, what have I got for you today? Well, we're going to go to America today, to the Americoids, and look at what's going on in America, because there's an important thing that's come up. Eliza Mondegreen, who some of you may know, has been at this for some time, has written an article for Unheard, which is, again, the links are in the doobries for you, about medical groups. And I've always said, when people have asked me the question, how do you think this will end, that I think it will end with a whimper, not a bang. Now, by that I mean, people are just going to pretend it never happened. They're going to, it has nothing to do with me. I knew nothing. It's going to be one of those, isn't it? Right? And then we'll fade into obscurity and end up like, Bilbo at the end of Lord of the Rings. That's what's going to happen to us, right? Okay? We'll be so damaged they'll put us on a ship and send us somewhere. So it's going to end with a whimper rather than a bang. That's my particular thoughts on this. Eliza doesn't disagree with me. Isn't that a lovely name, Eliza? Eliza Mondegreen, who certainly does not do little. Oh, come on. Let's just get on with it, shall we? Because it's grey and miserable and overcast. This week, the American Academy of Pediatrics, that's the AAP, announced that it was setting out on the long road back to plausible deniability. So true, Eliza. At a meeting this week, all 16 AAP board members voted to reaffirm the organisation's 2018 guidelines on how pediatricians, how the organisation's 2018 guidelines on how pediatricians should support transgender and gender diverse children and adolescents. I hate them for this, don't you? Before agreeing that a systematic review of the evidence supporting youth gender transition was in order. Now a systematic review. The Academy's current guidelines claim puberty blockers are reversible. The UK's National Health Service now warns that little is known about the long-term side effects of hormone or puberty blockers in children with gender dysphoria. Getting quotes, you see. You know damn well as I do, the damage done is unbelievable. On the subject of surgical affirmation, an Orwellian term, if ever there was one, the AAP advises that adolescents may undergo interventions to amputate breasts or genitalia on a case-by-case basis. What the So you tell us your fantasy, and you tell us your fantasy, and we'll decide whether you get to lop your bits off and remove your bits. And your narrative wasn't very convincing. I'm sorry, you're not going to get it. No, we'll give it to them. That's what it is. They're going to choose which narrative's best and who can have it. Really? It's a fantasy, right? We know it's a fantasy. We know it's an absolute fantasy. The entire trans thing is an absolute fantasy. So what they're saying is, on a case-by-case basis, we will review your narrative. And if your narrative is, resonant or impressive, we'll give you it. And if it's not, you're not having it. This is what happens when you get the humanities involved in medicine. They turn it into a theatre show. The guidelines also take social transition, which we know is the beginning. The iatrogenic harm starts with that the minute the child says it. Red flag. Red flag. The minute child says it. Red flag. The social transition, a psychosocial intervention in which a child's entire social circle is enlisted in a conspiracy to lie to them about their sex without due seriousness, despite evidence suggesting that social transition makes it harder for children to change their minds and accept their bodies. You ain't kidding. You start living that lie, you're done. According to the New York Times, Mark Del Monte, the chief executive of the AAP, said the board has confidence that the existing evidence is such that the current policy is appropriate. At the same time, the board recognised that additional detail would be helpful here. It's so blasé. I can't, that's what I... It's like they're making a bloody cake. There is a change of tune from AAP leadership, which has spent years resisting calls from within its own ranks, or just such a review, going to extraordinary lengths to shut down dissent. So it's a volte-face, or as I like to call it, a reverse ferret. But this is how organisations start to walk back from a medical scandal. Quietly, slowly, ideally so quietly and so slowly that no one notices. They've retreated from shaky to solid ground. Mott Bailey. First, they redefined gender-affirming care to de-emphasise controversial hormonal and surgical interventions. Moira Sizaliaghi, then president of the AAP, tried this move out last year when she insisted that destigmatising gender variance and promoting a child's self-worth is what it means to affirm a child or teen. Funny that the Academy's guidelines spilt so much ink on medical affirmation then, while demonising watchful waiting. On social media, the AAP suggested that gender-affirming care has never been about pushing medicines or surgery. We've also seen efforts elsewhere to broaden the umbrella of gender-affirming care to the point of meaninglessness, such that taking birth control pills, getting an abortion, and telling little girls it's okay to wear dresses are all gender-affirming care now. Who knew? They must be desperate, mustn't they? What's going on? Then they'll claim that this was all gender-affirming care ever meant all along. So this is a true Mott and Bailey, reverse ferret type stuff going on here, right? Who was talking about hormones and surgeries? Who was advocating a massive medical experiment in suppressing pubescent development? Medical professional associations like the American Academy of Pediatrics will magically rediscover everything they used to know about child and adolescent development. They will pretend they never overlooked these things. It'll just be years too late for kids who transitioned under their guidance. There's links within the document from Eliza that you can go and explore for yourselves. Medical scandals don't tend to end with reckonings. They tend to end with a mass forgetting, with amnesia, not accountability for those who caused harm, no matter how righteous their intentions. If we could jump forward 15 years, 20 years, and look back, we'd see this in the same light as we saw lobotomy and eugenics. Eugenics is actually probably the most definitive way of looking at this historically. Is eugenics shops, eugenic t-shirts. It actually was the same type of social contagion with the same horrific outcomes, if you know anything about Nazi Germany and various other regimes that took on this idea and ran with it. I think when we look back, that's what we'll see it as. It's extraordinary to me that the conversation is still taking place. Those of you in the know, and those of you who've been watching, paying attention, will see the NHS has been up to some stuff this week, and it's insane to me that it's still even happening at all. Some children, no children, none, not one single child. End of story. The only thing that will prevent this is a total ban. A total ban. That's it. I don't know whether you're with me on that. Please do tell me in the Dubris, as usual, right? I better go and do some stuff, One of those days. What even is the day? What's the day today? Because I genuinely... Oh, God, it's Saturday. How did that happen? Right, you lot. Off your pop. Keep working. Keep going. We know things are moving forward, but never become complacent. Never. For this is a hydra. And when we do eventually manage to slay the damn thing and then, all have a big knees up, I just hope that we've still got working knees with which to do it. I bid you good day.